All right. Good evening, good morning, or afternoon, whatever the case may be. Um, in my part of the world, it is actually Thursday, September 25th, but our guest today is actually, it is in fact Friday there. It's Friday somewhere, and so today is our 30th installment of Freehands Friday. And our guest today is Andy SALVANOS. Did I say that correctly, Andy?
Very good, Gene. Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here.
Right on, right on. Well, let me kind of.
It's about 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Friday here, by the way, if anyone's curious. So.
Is there some sort of weird half-hour time differentiation there? Is that?
There is, yeah. Adelaide's a bit of a strange place, and we're in between normal time zones, it seems.
Uh-huh.
So we're always half an hour behind the East Coast, basically.
So now, if you're like a half hour late, you can be like, it's my time zone. Like,
if your gig's in Melbourne, yeah.
All right. Well, let me start by saying I am a huge fan, and Victor and Per are joining us. Victor and I were just enjoying summer, and just an amazing track that is. And I was just kind of getting word that you've got not actually 3 but 4 albums, and so I have so many questions for you. And at some point, I'm just going to kind of turn it over to Victor and to Per to kind of ask you questions. But I suppose I wanted to start with. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about like how you started with music, really. I suppose that's always kind of a question I like to lead with, is like, why music?
Music for me was something that was just always there. My grandmother was a piano teacher. This iPhone I'm using at the moment is actually sitting on top of her grand piano that she left behind. And one of my favorite things to do as a child was climb under this thing and just sit there and listen. So, yeah, music's just kind of been a part of my life from the start. And I've kind of come in and out of it in terms of being an actual performer. I went through different stages in life where I just put music aside, and I guess sort of by default I've come back to it over and over again, and now I'm a middle-aged, unemployable, lifetime musician. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck with it, I think.
Unemployable? Jeez, man. I don't think that at all. Like, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, I think of all the wineries down here in Temecula. We can keep.
Can I say something? I heard someone said that musician is an awful job if you have to do it, but it is a fantastic job. No, it's an awful job to try to survive in, but it's a fantastic job if you have to do it.
Oh, really?
That's a true side. Not much in between.
I'll take your word for it, Pat.
So, tell me about. Okay, so did you play piano then? Like, was that one of your first instruments?
No, I actually avoided the piano like the plague, seemingly, throughout most of my life. And of course, now I wish I would have had some lessons. So, but I went through a few instruments as a child, the flute and a few wind instruments. But I would sort of have a play on anything that happened to be around the house. I did play the flute quite seriously for a couple of years, and I probably sight read better as an 8-year-old than I ever have since. And then I sort of went through a phase where I just put music aside and
women, right? It was women.
It was sport, actually. Yeah, when I was I was about 10 or 11, and kind of just music just kind of went out of my life for a few years, and then a friend of mine approached me in high school to play bass in the punk band. It was probably more of a joke than a serious proposition, but as it turned out, it was really a lot of fun, and it kind of brought the whole music thing back into my life.
How old were you?
It's about 14, I think.
Impressionable.
So, yeah, very much so. And when you're 14, 15 years old and you get on stage with an instrument, it's kind of yay. Exactly, yeah. So that was good fun, and gradually that kind of it just pushed me in a different direction in life.
So, Per, didn't you play flute?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Did you
I think he plays everything, doesn't he?
That's true. It doesn't even count. It doesn't even count with Per. It's like,
Yeah, I've never played flute in bands, only like solo concerts. In bands, I played mostly guitar and the tenor sax.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
the sexy stuff.
yeah, the sexy stuff. Yeah. Kind of
Right.
same licks on both instruments, the same solos, and
Yeah.
those limbs.
Women love the tenor players. Well, I'm curious to know, like, at what point, it became apparent that the bass or the flute wasn't enough. Like where it was like, I'm never going to be able to express myself the way I want to with this instrument.
I went through quite a few stages with bass playing. I sort of went through the band phase, and then in my early 20s, I went over to California and did the BIT course in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And because partly because I wanted to go to the States. If you're wondering about my accent, my mother is actually a Yank, as they say over here.
Oh, okay.
She was born and raised in the States, and so I went over to Southern California and lived there for a few years. And
so wait, let me stop you for a second. Okay. Okay, because it's like, I want to make sure I got this. No. I want to make sure. So let me just get the focus on me. For the record, born in Sweden.
Yep. Yeah, I was born and raised in Sweden. My dad's Greek and my mother's American.
Okay, so born in Sweden.
Yep.
Greek father. American mom. Living in Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure I got that.
And I'm not on the run.
And what?
I'm not on the run. So yeah, it'd be quite okay to put this on YouTube if you want to.
Are you really?
It goes straight up there. Actually, as soon as we're done.
All right.
As soon as we're done. So that's a guarantee. Okay, so mom's a Yank. When I interrupt you, it just means that I'm really interested. So.
All right. Good.
Okay, so
yeah, so
came out to BAT.
I went over to the States, and I spent probably about 7 or 8 years in Southern California, and played bass in a few really unknown bands over there. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, you could there was still a market for making a bit of money playing on people's demos, because everyone wanted to have a demo tape back then. And I sort of did a few little sessions for people, and
Who? Like,
cover bands.
where were you?
I used to play in a cover band in at a place called Molly Malone's in Hollywood. We used to have a regular.
Dude, I was playing with Molly's. I was playing at Molly's on Fairfax.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
Right on Fairfax.
Yeah, yeah.
Did it have the grass? Was it like? Did they have the grass hut back then, or was it?
This is going back to the early '90s.
So were you playing with the Figaro brothers?
No, it was there was a band called Critical Condition that I played in, and no one knows who that band is, but the guitar player was the guy. Guitar player was the guy called Rob Allen, who went on to play.
We used to. Incline played a lot at Molly's, and we played with the Javelinas. So we played with.
They actually the Javelinas came in there while we were still playing there. Yeah.
Yeah, Smutty, Tim Scott. Yeah. Those are good guys.
Yeah.
And Smutty's girlfriend Alice.
I never met Alice. You? No, I don't.
Okay, all right.
This could be.
Yeah.
This is why I'm in Australia. No, never, not really.
It's too late for weird. It's already weird. So the Javelinas used to play there. The Figaro brothers used to play there. There was a guy. What was his name? Garrison White, 12-string player. Garrison White.
No, don't know Garrison.
He was really good, very talented.
The bartender's name was Jeremy, I think, when we played in there.
Yeah. There was a
that's the important stuff, is who the bartender was.
Right.
It's highly interesting hearing about the bartender Jeremy.
There was a girl. There was an Irish girl that was there. I can't remember her name, but my drummer hooked up with her. I remember that.
What did you order from Jeremy?
Usually Guinness, copious amounts of Guinness.
Okay, so Molly's. Yeah, Molly's was a magical place. Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that. I liked Molly's, and that was a fun scene. So at what point was did you like at some point was it like was there something calling you back home or?
My grandparents had moved out to Australia in the '80s, and in 1992, obviously, there was a bit of trouble in LA, and it just seemed like a good time for me to leave.
Right. So that was the Rodney King riots.
Yeah, it was, and I was recently married, and sort of thinking ahead next 10 years, and I had an opportunity to come back to Australia at the time, and it just seemed like the right time to leave. So that's why I came here.
So your grandparents said, if you come back here, we'll buy you a house.
Pretty much, yeah.
So my wife's parents. Okay.
Not really, but I did inherit half their house. So.
Yeah, I mean that's what got us back from North Carolina, from California, so I can definitely relate to that. And when you were in Los Angeles, did you become aware of the stick at that time?
I was aware of the stick, like many people, through Guitar Player magazine and Tony Levin, of course. Being a bass player was kind of inescapable.
Yeah.
But I didn't. The moment where I sort of thought, now it makes sense, is when I saw someone that I believe to be Larry Tuttle play the stick in at a place called Gorky's on Cahuenga Boulevard, I think it was, in Hollywood, around '92, and
I saw him.
And I sort of went, that's actually something that you can do really interesting stuff with. So that was kind of my moment when I put it on my wish list, really. 92, 93 it might have been. I think we were back in California visiting family actually in '93. So yeah.
So did you purchase a stick then, or how long was it before? before you?
I waited. I got this in 1999. I think I was communicating with Stick Enterprises for probably about a year before that, and just trying to talk myself out of it. It was, and interestingly, getting this instrument coincided with a band I was playing in at the time. We just been traveling around Australia, and we were just starting to build a really good following, doing some bigger festivals. And
who was the band?
And the whole thing just fell apart. The band was called Just About Everything, which was originally the initials JBE because the guitar player's name was Julian Barnett, and it was the Julian Barnett Ensemble. The band actually had its first album reviewed very positively by a guy called Anil Prasad, who's quite a well-known reviewer. And he's very prolific in the sort of prog rock scene. And yeah, we were just a kind of eclectic acoustic folk rock band. We had, but we were starting to get some reasonably interesting attention. We were doing one gig in Adelaide, and Fairport Convention showed up, who happened to be in town, and sort of crashed the gig, and they were very positive about what we were doing, and it seemed like everything was going right. And then, of course, bands being what they are,
it wasn't a guitarist, singer-songwriter.
Yeah. Well, it was a guitar player. Yeah. crashed and burned.
Sorry, Per.
So yeah, the whole thing was coming to
easy target.
An end. I love picking on guitar players. Sorry,
it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, sounds pretty easy.
Oh, Scott.
G'day, everyone.
Hi, Scott. No.
Here we go. Finally, a real Australian accent.
And we're frozen.
Dust?
All right.
Give him a sec here. Sit still.
Bit hard, Gene. I've got no internet credit on the one inside, so I'm on my phone. Sorry, guys.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, right on. Well, we're a couple minutes in here, so.
I hope you're not coming down the freeway at the moment, Scott.
No, mate. No, I'm stripping all the paint off my truck.
No worries.
All right. So we were just talking about at what point Andy decided it was time to get a stick. He was trying to talk himself out of it. That didn't work out, did it?
No, it was just a really good time for me to get away from the whole, just being the bass player in the band that was never going to go anywhere situation. And I got this thing that I'm holding here, which was a refurbished ironwood stick that I've just kept this instrument ever since, and still love the thing. So
yeah, I was gonna be like, hey, they've got different models now, but it's like
I wanted to ask about that. So it's all. When was that made? I'm looking at the headstock with the sharp corners at the top, and it's not routed off. That looks like it. That might mean that it's an older model. When was that made?
It's 1985, according to all the records I've got. So yeah, it's definitely vintage in stick terms. Yeah.
What's the number on it, Andy?
1714.
Okay.
And you'd be surprised how many people come up and ask me if that was the year it was made.
Is it a sitar?
I mean, seriously. Yeah, it's a medieval instrument.
It never gets old. It's so funny because all the stick players are like, "Oh my god, that's so funny," and the guitarists are like, "Oh, I don't get it."
You could just imagine somebody sitting there hand winding all those strings, couldn't you, back then?
Yeah, and inventing the magnetic pickup.
Yeah, it's one of the first acoustic models.
So, were you in Australia, or were you in? You were
I
in,
was, yeah.
So they had to ship that thing out there. I mean, you really had to commit. You had to.
Yeah,
Couple $100.
I waited for. I'm not sure if I waited for the model, but I waited for one where Emmett had retrofit the truss rod, because they warned me that if I was going to play it out and about, that it'd be a good thing to have an adjustable one.
They probably knew this guy's in Australia. It's like, let's do this right the first time.
Yeah. Which was good advice, because pretty much the moment I go outside, the way the weather is in Adelaide is it changes quite rapidly, and we go from very similar weather to what you've been having over there to pretty chilly sort of Northern California type climate. So it's good to have some sort of adjustable parts on the instrument, definitely.
Can you show us the back of that?
Yeah.
Look at that. Well, you don't play that much, do you?
Not really. It's.
Are you eating dinner on that thing?
It's a little bit disgusting. I'm working on the Bob Culbertson look, except the wood's a lot darker than his.
That's really funny. That's really because he's like, oh, that's where all the tone is, and Emmett's just like,
that's where the funk is at. So, do I understand correctly? You kind of just got sick of bands and playing with other people and everything that comes to that, and you decided you wanted to play by yourself.
Yeah, it's sort of the instrument kind of brought me back to the childhood thing of growing up with music around me, and as a child, I was really I was not interested really in learning a lot of classical repertoire that people were trying to teach me. I really wanted to just sit down and say, this is in the style of so-and-so, and then come up with something of my own. That was my big thing. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old when I started playing games, and having my grandmother quiz me on pieces of music written by famous composers, and I'll try to guess who it was. And to me, it's like music's always been about maybe emulating the things that I enjoy listening to, but not learning them. And there's something that's always made me want to play my own stuff. That's really it's what I enjoy doing. I loathe learning pieces of music written by other people, basically.
That's interesting because I mean I can very much relate with wanting to play music that you are sentimental about, but I never. I mean, I guess just because, and I thought it was because I was a bassist, but you're a bassist too. And I guess I find it easier. I mean, it is easier to learn other people's music for me than to actually go out and actually write your own.
I can say I think I'm totally sharing Andy's view.
Yeah.
I sometimes learn other people's pieces, but I'm never able to play them like they're supposed to be played. It doesn't come out my way.
But that's a good way. I mean,
I think it's because I'm lazy. I want music to happen right now and fast.
See,
I don't give the time it needs to nail it.
Hmm.
Just coaxing it out.
Yeah. So yeah,
I think there's an element of laziness to what I do as well, I think, so.
It's funny because I was going to be like, oh, I'm lazy because I don't want to write my own material. Well, I think we're lazier than everyone else.
We're all lazy.
We're all lazy in here.
Which I think is pretty ironic because the fact that you were, you had the wherewithal to actually get this thing, buy strings for this thing, learn how to tune this thing, like find a rig for this thing, go out and make albums with this thing, like scratch out a living with it. There's nothing lazy about it. So, okay, we're all lazy, but if we were bassists or guitarists or French horn players or flutists, whatever it may be, it might not be considered so lazy.
Lazy for a reason. How's that for an album title, Handy?
Sounds, yeah.
We call it a planet.
I do have to say, too, with the instrument changed my listening habits, and it kind of made me want to go back into that, find your own thing as a musician, whereas for years I was trying to accommodate other people, and
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my influences of when I played bass were I'd listen to a lot of really solid rhythm section stuff, and
like what?
Really, my early influences were really kind of a lot of reggae and Latin music and things like that. But I've got a very strange but fairly broad musical taste, so I'd listen to any rhythm section that was doing something exciting, in reggae music it was Sly and Robbie and
the Assassins.
A lot
Rhythm
of
Killer, I think was the. I'm trying to think of the album in particular. That was one that I liked by them.
Yeah, and a lot of funk as well. I listened to James Jamerson religiously for a while, the Motown stuff, because for bass players, it's like it was a treasure trove, really. But when I started playing the stick, I went into much more sort of solo piano players and solo acoustic guitar players.
Did you listen to stuff like Weather Report or any of that?
Yeah, I did.
Stuff, or?
Yeah, Weather Report. I did listen quite a bit to Stanley Clarke at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've got my phone ringing in the background.
It's not the koala, the bird.
I pretty much picked up a lot of stuff. Also, when I went over to California and going through music school, it really kind of just opened a lot of new avenues for listening as well.
So it was positive in that regards, or was it?
It was a great experience. It was a lot of fun and very positive. But I got when you become an educated musician and you play a certain instrument, you can become very set in your ways. And one of the things once again with the stick was that it kind of brought back that whole here's something new and you haven't got a clue what to do with it, but no one's saying do this or do that, and it's just you just sort of pick it up and play it, and that's what's made it really, really exciting to play, I think.
I think that's why Emmett made it the way he did. I mean, it's like, you want to be a bassist? Okay. You want to do like melodic stuff? Okay. You want to do some sort of amalgamation of both? You can do that. You can play uncrossed, or you can play crossed, or one hand, two hands. I've experimented with putting my chin on the fretboard. Everyone's got their own thing, right?
Yeah, that's something that yeah, recently I have come to think about. When I go back to occasionally play other instruments, I realize that, oh gosh, this one I have to play in certain keys for it to sound good.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
all that is gone with a stick,
Mm.
It just sounds different in different keys, but you can do any key.
Mhm.
So I kind of got used to that, the few years I've been playing the stick.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got 12 strings, man. I mean, that's like, you've got a lot of
Yeah,
space.
that's two more.
Two more than me.
So John, I'm sorry. So Andy, what um, uh, in terms of the way that you play, the way that you approach the instrument,
Hmm.
what's different now than when the way you approach it now when you first got it? For instance, sometimes people might decide they want to change the tuning, or some people may change
Mm.
the number of fingers that they use, or they may change, I don't know. Do you find yourself being a different player now than you were maybe 6 or 7 years ago?
Um, no, I haven't really changed very much.
Lazy, lazy.
Yeah, here comes that. I should just wear a big badge saying lazy, shouldn't I? Um, I think it's for me. It was more like within 6 months. I think I was pretty set on what direction I was going to take with this thing. But what I see myself doing now is the little refinements in what I do. So the number of fingers and the number of strings and the tunings pretty much stayed the same the whole time. I've never felt compelled with this instrument really to change anything. And, I think that's why I've still got the same stick here that I got in '99. Was that it's just yeah, there's so much there that I don't feel like I have to go anywhere else at this point.
When you're playing, do you even know what key you're in? Like when you're playing your own material, do you stop to think, oh, this goes to the 4, and this is the minor third? And...
No, usually if I do that, I get lost, and then something else happens. Yeah, which can be a good thing, but I think the ideal. I mean, there's musicians talk about this, but there's kind of there's a zone that you get in sometimes when you're lucky or you're having a particularly good day, and it's somewhere where you're extremely conscious about that something good's happening, that you don't want to analyze it, because the moment you go there, that you break the spell. So it's yeah. I try not to think about it too much. The stuff I play is very simple music. Really, if you analyze it, it's very it tends to be very very diatonic in nature and very fairly sparse and not a whole lot of movement really. And I like to play things that grab people's ears and that people enjoy listening to. And I've always been a sucker for a good 3-minute pop song. If I hear something catchy, it sticks with me. At the same time, if I do analyze what I do, I find that I'll actually have a listen to something that I've recorded, and I'll go, that actually has a key change in it that I wasn't even aware of. It's there. Or maybe there's a couple of beats dropped somewhere intentionally but not consciously. So I think that's one of the freedoms that you have as a solo musician, is that you can you don't have to work around the structure of what other people expect and what what's supposed to come next, and it just kind of flows.
Yeah, Perry, you want to talk about that? Because I know you're out there like busking and doing your own thing. Like, what do you love about like not having to like? There's no boss. There's no drummer. Like, what do you love most about being a solo performer? Like, is could there ever be any other instrument like the stick that could satisfy that?
Not really. That's kind of what brought me into the stick playing in the first place. And also, all other instruments I've played in the past have been like a solo instruments. I've been in band. I've always been a guy, doing all the ornamentations. Filling up behind the lead vocals and stuff like that. So I've been busy listening to my fellow musicians. With a stick, I can listen to the listener. I can listen to the audience and kind of try to connect emotionally. And that's a new dimension for me. Mm. So the stick is very much about, playing together with the listener and trying to communicate and to progress the music in a way that the listener appreciates or challenge the listener.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen like footage of both of you guys just like out there on the street, on the boardwalk, at the mall, like doing your thing, and people are walking by, and it's like they're having a sandwich and they're like,
ignoring us.
Exactly.
It's really funny to play out there, and then some, like good-looking girl comes around and you play a totally bad note. Everything just falls apart. Until people keep laughing quite a lot around.
Right. So yeah, does your playing does it improve or are you distracted? I mean, like so let me ask you this, and you and Perry can kind of debate this, but like tell me about being a solo performer and busking with the stick and just getting out there and just like, I mean, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you've got your cup of coffee, you're rolling out, charged up the amp, fresh 9-volt battery for the pedal if you got it, double check cables and cords, find parking, roll your ass down there with your dolly or whatever it is, you set up and play. Like, walk me through a day of busking.
Well, it's totally not like that for me.
Yeah, you made it sound very professional.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I wake up at noon and I go, oh gosh, I got to get out before the day is gone.
I need to make some money.
Yeah, I run out and I do like 3 hours to get some money, and then, oh shit, I'm so hungry, and I have to go to a cafe and burn all the money and get that.
Lazy!
Well, I would say.
Man, I so do not belong in this crowd.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's an element of if you're going to play on the street, you do have to be professional, but there is also the perk of the gig is that you can come and go as you choose. If you're having a good day or a bad day, it's not there's no one there saying setup time is 11 a.m. and breakdown time is this, and this is how much money you're getting, and there's an unknown thing to every day. Mm-hmm. So every day you go out there with an open mind, and you just sort of take whatever the world throws at you. So it's I find it most of the time very internal process. I'm standing out in public, but people are like you said, passing by. But to me, it's sort of playing within yourself in a sense. I do think the practice element's great. Like you sort of get to work on what you do and improve what you do, and you can tell which pieces you play actually people respond to and which ones they don't. And at the same time, I do think there's a pitfall as well if you do a lot of busking. I think one thing I notice myself doing every now and then is playing very hard. And if I'm in a fairly noisy environment, you kind of get caught up in a certain way of playing to project the sound a bit more. And every now and then I just have to you have to pull yourself up and focus on what you're doing. I've seen it happen with classical musicians who play on the street a lot, where they develop certain issues with their technique because they're just trying to push their sound out there a lot, as opposed to relaxing to it. So, yeah.
Are you saying that they become shredders, kind of?
Well, that as well, yeah. Well, I mean, the fast stuff grabs people's attention. So yeah, some of us have to find other ways of doing it. If you don't play something flashy, you sort of have to connect emotionally with people on a different level. So finding the right spot.
Do you keep? Okay, so I have a song, or even two or three, that I keep kind of in my back pocket, and like. Do you have a song like that where you're like, oh, I gotta burn that one, or I gotta play that one, or now's the time to do it? And I mean, subconsciously, maybe,
Yeah, there are a few pieces that people respond to more, definitely, and I think it doesn't matter if you're playing covers or originals. There's certain songs that just work, and I try to avoid repeating myself too much, though. I find it really annoying if I'm walking past a street performer and every 10 minutes he's playing the same piece over and over again. I just, there's an ethical conflict there, So,
Andy, if you should play all the pieces you have on your repertoire, would it make for like an hour, or when do you have to play something you have played earlier that day? How long?
At the moment, about 2 hours.
Yeah.
I can do about 2 hours, and then I can.
Is that
my ideal set is probably 45 minutes, but sorry.
Yeah. Is that composed material? Because I throw in a lot of improvised music here and there, so to extend the circle.
Yeah, it's most of what I play is composed, but it's never. If you heard me play the same song 10 times, it would never be the same.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's the type of improvising I like to do. I tend not to just start stuff from scratch when I'm out playing in public, but depending on the mood and how I feel, they're always changing and evolving. So
that's pretty long. Long set, I would say 2 hours. I had a gig at the church this summer, and they required me to play for an hour. And I realized that 1 hour, that's pretty much the limit, I wouldn't have to throw in improvised parts.
People have you figured out by then.
Pardon?
After an hour, they know it. They've got you figured out.
Yeah, and I got an extra number as well, so I had to improvise a little to not have to play.
But that's when it gets really interesting, because you, as a musician, you're like, I know I played this earlier, but I have to try something different because I have to make it sound different. Like, right, that's when you're really stretching, and that's when, because it sounds, at least to me, it sounds like you guys don't want to be that guy that's playing, whatever, Lay Down Sally, or what's the song that everyone plays?
Mustang Sally.
Sally.
Well, you know,
Exactly.
that's what you tell Paul Heyman, right? If you guys don't have a long enough set, you just play Mustang Sally for 20 minutes, you know?
Or Blue Bossa. Blue Bossa is the other one where it's like, okay, now they're stretching. Blue Bossa.
Yeah. In the busking circles, it tends to be Hallelujah. I think, at least
really?
locally. That's what everyone does. All the singers. But,
The Jeff Buckley.
yeah.
The
whatever version, really. Like
the one that Jeff made popular, though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he did it, and then they redid it for like the Shrek movie, and I was like, stop.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm very much. I'm in the camp that thinks Jeff Buckley did the definitive version of that song. I know a lot of people have done it, but yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I mean, Grace as an album kind of changed me. Like, I was like, oh, he's a singer. I mean, yeah, he can write and he can play guitar and he can do that stuff, but man, that guy, he just...
Is that the song, Hallelujah, I just love her so, she brings me coffee in the morning, etc.?
No.
Hallelujah, I guess it must be a couple of dozen. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about a completely different tune, and I was going to say that my favorite version was delivered by Humble Pie on their live album, but that's a different Hallelujah. Sorry.
You know what?
Not the old Swedish psalm Hallelujah.
Could I chime in with something? I think Andy said something important, and I'm not sure it got noticed properly. You said that it's quite a lot up to finding a good spot. And when busking, I have the same experience actually, because surprisingly I noticed that I make more money when I play not so loud, and if I find a place where the ambience is good and where not too many people can stand, so it becomes a little more intimate, and I think
you draw people in.
Yeah, that is when you play mellower, more emotional music, not so showing off style music.
No shredding.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have to play at a place where it's possible to, stop and can go into yourself and listen deeply. So that brings deeper music to the listener.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the common misconception with about street performing is that the more foot traffic you have, the better the busking spot, and really sometimes works the complete opposite way.
So talk about that.
Some of my favorite times to play in Rundle Mall, which is actually a shopping strip in Adelaide. Some of my favorite times are when the shops are actually closed, because you get much less of the frantic shopping foot traffic running around all over the place. You just get people who are hanging around, not knowing what to do with themselves, or sitting on benches.
Yeah, everyone goes there with their money, and there's no shops open. So, there's a busker. I can give him the money.
Well,
I wish. Yeah.
Usually, people I've found that people that will actually drop money. People that are people that play music themselves or have a profound appreciation for music themselves. I mean, that's in the small amount of busking that I've done. It's usually like, at some point in their life, they played music as well, and they know that how frickin' hard this is, just to play this piece, or that I'm expressing myself in a way that they feel something as well. They felt something. I made them feel something.
Might be true, but that's totally not my order in busking. I say that the money is in CD sales, totally. The money that people drop is the peanuts. The thing for me is selling CDs, and mostly I don't sell that play for themselves. I sell to people that that feel touched by the music.
Mm-hmm.
By CDs sometimes, and now when I have 2 CDs on the street, I double my sales.
That's good.
Double income.
Yeah.
Maybe next year I have 3.
That's good.
He's got it worked out.
But it's important. You have to sell CDs with the music that you are playing. You know, I have brought experimental electronic music CDs with me, and I'm not able to sell them. I think I've sold 1 or 2 in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that was my experience with the album I mentioned briefly when we started the more electronic stuff. Was that I virtually have been talking people out of buying it because what people want to hear is they'll pick up a CD and they'll go, "Is this the music you're playing?" And if you say no, that's completely different. That's actually
pretty shitty. It's actually that's a shitty album.
Distorted electronica, and they'll go, "Well, maybe not
That's
today.
a bad album.
I'll come back." Yeah. So yeah, that's a very good point. And if they like the one, they'll come by and buy the next one as well. I do think Gene's point is about musicians or people who relate to musicians and music closely is noticeable in the younger demographic, because a lot of the kids now, let's say kids, 25 and under, are people who don't really buy physical product anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of people who buy CDs in the younger age groups will be, in my experience, will be musicians or people, guys who play guitar. So in that age group, I've really noticed that aspect of it it's quite noticeable.
Mm. And
how many times a day do you get the question, what kind of sitar is that?
Is that a sitar?
I've been, I think about on a regular basis just getting a sign out, just sticking a sign out there going, this is, I'm playing a Chapman stick, okay? Leave me alone. But it's probably anywhere from 2 to half a dozen to a dozen times a day. And I'm not sure if you get this in Sweden, but a lot of people will say, "Well, so is this a locally made instrument?"
I get that a lot. Did you build that yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can imagine what it's like with a vintage model, where they see the screws sticking out of here.
Yeah, but mine looks really old.
That's right.
Oh yeah, you're wearing the paint off yours, aren't you?
Oh wow! Since we last checked in with Pear's stick, it has.
It's only 3 years.
Yeah. We used to call that Culbertsonization, but now I think we're going to have to call it Boysonization.
I don't know really, but that maybe that's done it yourself look. I don't know.
Well, okay. So what was I going to add to that?
And also, people think that you play to a background CD because a lot of people can't imagine that all that music comes from one instrument that you're playing.
Yeah. I've sort of specifically avoided doing looping stuff when I play live for that, largely for that reason. It's something that I'm quite interested in doing, but it's almost a point of difference with this instrument that you don't have to go there in order to put out a lot of sound as a solo player. It's just fills out the spectrum completely on its own.
Yeah. Now, do you do looping when you're playing it live when you're busking?
No, no. The idea with playing the stick is to get away from all that, and take control over the music.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's looping just interferes, but with a flute, I regard the looper and the electronics to be more of the instrument than the actual flute, but not really stick. Just sufficient.
So you've got two hands going. You can accommodate all that.
Yeah, it's that's kind of the good thing with the stick. You play everything, and in Andy's music you hear that very well because there isn't. I said there isn't a 5 seconds period without a rubato thing going on, somewhere. So all the time the tempos are like multiple tempi going in textures, and you can't do that in looping. It's impossible.
That's right. Yeah, and that's I've tried it. It's not for me. I want to be able to speed up and slow down. I want to be able to express myself and not, like one of the reasons that I love most about the stick is that I don't have to wait for the drummer to show up. I have to wait for the guitarist. Like I have all this freedom, and I really like treasure it, and I'm in charge. And as someone that's coming from the bass, it was just liberating. Just be like, I'm not waiting on anybody. I'm not like, here's the chords, here's the progression, have at it. And it was mine to interpret. So, and I appreciate the loopings. Some guys do it really well. Who I really like is Glenn Porman. Glenn Porman is just like Gandalf with the looping. He makes it sound so sweet and luscious, and I feel like I'm on this journey, and he's gonna take me to Mordor. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, I think
he makes looping
I
fun.
agree. Yeah. I agree, and I think the art form of looping comes up with some amazing. There's some really interesting stuff. I hear regularly, and it's kind of like love to go there, but with this instrument, it's sort of almost counteractive to my mind. Having said that, I do agree that some people are doing some really nice loop stuff with the stick as well. So I guess it depends on how you approach it.
So I have a friend in Stockholm who basks with a guitar, and he has a looper, and he used to loop a kick drum that goes
Yeah.
and then he plays very fast flamenco stuff over that.
Yeah.
And that's where looping excels in street busking. Because I know it's problematic if you do the Glenn Porman style, like overdubbing long things. What do you do when the old lady steps up and asks you, what kind of sitar is that? Or you can't just, if you drop the loop, your performance is gone.
Well, I actually have a friend who does a lot of that with a dulcimer with a MIDI pickup on it. He's quite a well-known street performer, and plays a wave drum, and he loops just on a standard Boss looper, but he gets this whole sort of orchestral thing going, and when people come up and speak to him, he literally just lets the loop keep playing and fades it down a little bit and talks to them while the music's still going. There's an element to that where people see someone on the street doing 15 different things and turning it into a piece of music It sounds cool, and they go, "Wow, this is amazing." They're sort of constructing a piece of music on the spot. So it's definitely very effective in the busking scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy who calls himself Sound FX. He's a singer using a microphone.
Dub effects.
Yeah, dub FX.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good type of music for looping. But with a stick, it's kind of counterproductive to use looping.
Yeah. Why it's interesting because you've got both hands on the board, and so it gives you this opportunity to kind of emulate open strings, and that's something I know. And actually, I mean, it's been a while since we've been talking and stuff. Could I trouble you to play us a song that you like to play? Because I see that you're plugged in and you're ready to play.
Yeah.
Something maybe you've been working on, or something you want to show us, or something
Do you want to see my hands, or?
I would like to, yes.
Yeah. If you could move the phone.
Otherwise, I'll just turn the CD on and sit.
No, don't do that.
All right,
and no looping. For fuck's sake, no looping.
I'm gonna take my hang on. Here's my golden retriever's licking my hand as we speak. Toby, soft. What does that sound like? It's okay? All right.
Yes.
Can you move back? You want to see your hands? Yeah. Yes. This is what I was hoping for. Perfect.
All good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. That was nice.
I can't hear you.
We were
I'm
yelling,
back.
"Stop! Stop!"
Thank you, Andy. That was very nice. That was very nice.
It was wonderful. So would that be something that you kind of like start your day, morning, afternoon with when you're busking?
Yeah. I play that piece because it's easy to play, and
Lazy.
yeah, and yeah, because I've been sitting here, haven't been playing much, and yes, something easy and relaxing for me to play. But it's I guess yeah, I do have certain pieces that I'll start my day on.
Mm-hmm.
Depends a little bit on the mood, what's happening around me, but and I think like if you're doing a stage gig, like Pam mentioned, where you've got 45 minutes or an hour, you tend to approach things completely differently. I'll write a set list,
Mm-hmm.
sort of try to structure things, but if you're street performing, you really just pull one out of the hat, basically.
Do you have one that you've been working on recently, like that's new? That's been kind of challenging that we can put you on the spot on?
Recently, probably in the last year, there's a piece that I posted a clip of on YouTube about a year ago that I've been trying to actually turn into a piece of music, which is this sort of thing. Sorry about the birds.
The birds add to the piece.
Nice. Oh man.
Yeah, but yeah,
Beautiful,
they'll
yeah.
probably make it to the next album. So
Nice. That was lovely. So, is there a working title for that one, or?
Not really, no.
One I'm working on.
Yeah. I'm planning to sort of lock myself up pretty soon and do a couple of weeks of recording, so everything will come up then.
In the past, tell us about recording. Like what? I mean, is it a solitary environment? Is it you and like Logic and a laptop, or you go and do, like how does that work when you record?
It is. Yeah, I tend to do most of it on my own, and I feel just like it's similar to playing the instrument. Is that I'm sort of gradually getting closer and closer to the result that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I've recorded something, it's getting a step closer to where I'd like it to be ultimately. So.
Yeah. So, what, like 1 month, 2 months? When can we expect a new recording? This will be album number 5, right?
Well, in terms of business, I really need to do it before Christmas.
Yeah.
Not to be, yeah. I've when you do work and perform a lot in the same part of the world, you really sort of rely on repeat customers, and ideally, like Pat mentioned earlier, you should be really putting out a new product every year if you can. But yeah, I've been a bit lazy. I did record an album about 1.5 years ago for a DVD that a friend of mine produced, and it's not something I've released, but just decided to keep it separate from my CD releases. So I haven't been quite as lazy as everyone thinks I have, but
we kid around with that. With being lazy, but I don't really think that. And I don't really think that about Per either, because he's just put out an album, and then like again, and like
yeah, he seems quite prolific actually.
It's like 14 instruments. There's like him playing like a car fender. He makes a car fender sound good. He just like yanks it off a car, and he's like, check it out, look. It actually sounds pretty good.
It's quality European cars, that's why.
So I think we're pretty close to our time. It's getting kind of late here. It's probably getting time for dinner time there, right? I did want to ask you about the koala in your yard. Do you actually have a koala in your yard?
Yeah, it's actually in the neighbor's yard at the moment.
Can you see it from here? I mean,
no, I can't see it out the window here, unfortunately. If I go for a walk with the phone, it's going to be very wobbly, but I could probably do that.
I could go for a koala. Yeah,
I'm kind of tempted. I mean, but let's make sure we get it all.
Do you want me to go for a walk with?
Well, I want to make sure that Victor and Per have gotten all their jabs in here. So
no worries.
Before we go on the koala hunt, which.
So I did have one thing, just a silly little question that occurred to me. You mentioned that you're pretty much doing all your own stuff, and you don't like to play other people's music because I guess the word lazy was brought up. But what about like jazz standards, where there's a chord progression that you might play in your left hand, and then you basically improvise with your right? I mean, you ever do anything like that while you're busking, or is that?
Not really, no.
Like
I think I've stolen little things, like this is probably, yeah. those kind of little riffs, and they're just standard Latin things that I've pinched off people, but not specific songs.
Okay, that was all simple question. Yeah. All right.
But you, Perry, you got it all figured out. You got all your busking questions in. Because I'll tell you, man, it was cool. Perry had a post where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm tuning in for this one. I want to see Andy." And I gotta confess, like one of the reasons, and this is not an exaggeration. One of the ideas for Free Hands Friday was to just like find out who these people are, and like I was so intrigued, like by like this. He's out in Australia. He can, he's out there on the mall. He's just like doing his own thing. I'm like, who are you, Andy Salvanos? And so like, I'm so. It's really cool, man. I'm thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I'm like I said, I'm like totally starstruck hearing you play and hearing about your journey and all that stuff and how you came to the stick. It's really been fun to just to get to know you and what you do and all the things that you've brought to the stick community.
Thank you very much. As you can tell, I'm just a normal, boring person, really. So
No,
there's no mystery.
Hearing you tell your story, man. It's nice to hear your story and to hear some of your thoughts. You're in a different world than I see around me in many ways, and so it's that's part of the value of this is okay, I know what I'm trying to do with the instrument. Let's find out what other people are trying to do.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Koala Hunt. Let's go see
Thanks,
this
guys.
thing.
Okay,
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
You can't script this stuff. I mean, like if we actually do see Koala, like seriously,
oh, this will be classic.
Well, I'm just going to unplug this. All right. We'll see what we can do.
All right.
I should have asked my wife to locate it.
You don't have a name for it?
No, not really.
That damn thing.
Kathy?
It's crapping in the yard.
Oh no, my wife's going to the shop. Hang on. Now this is going to be the anti-climax of the year on Free Hands Friday if we don't actually find it.
Not necessarily, because it's probably beautiful out there, right? I mean.
Okay, I'll give you a. How do I? Okay, we'll just go like that. Can you guys see where I'm walking?
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk into the neighbor's yard here.
A little bit of lag.
Let me
That's
see.
okay.
Oh, there it is.
Are you kidding me?
Can you see it in the tree? It's got a baby as well.
Dude.
I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it up there?
Ooh. No.
No.
I'm not sure which tree.
Let me see.
Throw a rock at it.
Hang on. I think I'm aiming right at it.
Can you kind of point to it with your finger?
Can
Can you make a loud noise to stir it up, like bang on the glass?
Okay. Can you see in the tree where there's sort of a fork in the branches?
Oh yeah.
And there's a gray blob up there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I see it.
It's
Okay. So the tree extends up. There's like a big branch. There's another big branch, and then there's kind of a V shape right there.
Yeah.
And in the middle of it, there's a koala with its baby.
Yeah.
That's a Free Hands Friday first.
It's very still.
Okay.
They tend to get sort of stoned on the leaves, the gum tree leaves.
Wow, look at that. So did they get into the trash or anything like that? I mean, do they make messes or?
No, they're not at all like raccoons. They're
okay.
They're not really terribly interested in human
I see.
fare unless it gets unless it gets really hot.
Don't they live their entire life in the same tree?
No, they move around a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, they only have specific eucalyptus trees that they like, and they migrate all the time. So anyway, there we go.
Okay, so Andy, I got one last question for you here. And
Yeah.
well, first of all, thanks for that. That was pretty cool. I mean, we get, maybe like the occasional dog that gets into our trash. We get lizards out here in Temecula. I've got some rabbits. At some point, I'm going to feature, Daisy and Smokey, my rabbits. But what I really wanted to know is, what sort of advice do you have for people that are new to the stick, or people that are thinking about learning the stick, or people that have been playing for like a year, that have maybe seen you play, and like what sort of advice would you have for them?
I'll try to stand still. I mean, to me, when you play any instrument, really the important thing is that you're thinking about the end result, which is creating something musical that you would like to listen to yourself. So I think you should always work to a view of creating music and not get caught up too much on technical aspects of playing the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's really easy to get hung up on technique instead of just thinking about the tone that you're projecting and the sounds that you want to project and the actual musical result at the end of it. So that's that to me. That's not just a stick issue. It's a general issue with musicians, I think.
And you probably see that and feel that, like actually having to play in front of people and having that real-time interaction, like what you feel best about playing music and what works for you and what they enjoy as well. It's kind of a balance there, maybe.
It does. Yeah, I do think it comes. I mean, it comes across. I think if you're, first of all, if you're playing something that you enjoy playing, but having said that, I mean, I know musicians who are happy playing anything. It's not. We're all different in that respect. But I think like if you're focusing on technique, then you should be focusing equally much on what sort of sound am I, like how what sort of tone are you producing, not just what the notes are. And do you want it to sound a certain way? One of the things for me on the stick is I'm sort of trying to use the best aspects of the instrument, which, it has this really interesting attack that's almost a bit like finger picking, but it also has on the bass side, it's got this kind of slappy attack, but it's also got a really smooth after note that lingers there. And to my ears, I don't want the Chapman stick to sound like a harpsichord. I try to avoid that kind of sound, which can happen at times, I think. So you just think about what sort of sound you want to produce with the instrument and work towards that as much as you're working towards being able to play different scales and chords. And I just think the overall tone is really important.
Cool. That's good advice about that. Well,
sorry about the wobbling. I'm holding the thing in my hand now. So.
That's all right. Paris or excuse me, Per or Vic, if you guys had anything else that you wanted to add.
It's off topic, but I'm wondering about the camels.
That I was not prepared for.
You know, here in Sweden we read in papers that in Australia your bathrooms are invaded by thirsty camels because they have an extra sense that can smell water, and they know there is water somewhere in there, so they break into the bathrooms and occupy them for forever.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to check out. I got to go to bed.
Just like this.
Wow. Camels, Andy?
Camels in the bathroom.
It's unfortunately I'm very sorry to inform you that it's a bit of a myth. It's just like you don't see polar bears walking around the streets of Stockholm too often. So there's camels out in the desert, but no.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well,
thanks for showing us the koala anyway.
I tried.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, thanks a lot. I appreciated it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Andy. Happy Free Hands Friday, you guys. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.